Good afternoon, everyone, or whatever it is for every time you are in the world. It's been a little while since I've made a video, but I just wanted to jump back into it now that I've got a few watches that I do want to talk about. So what we have here today is a offering from Oak and Oscar. It is their Olmsted mat. We'll jump into the watch in a second. I just wanted to show you briefly what they come in. Oak and Oscar is a micro brand based out of Chicago, run by a fine gentleman named Chase. So when you get the watch, you get a note and then a little card. So it is just the specs and then some kind of general instructions in case you've never ever used a watch before. You get a spring bar tool. This case, by the way, is also made in the USA locally. Something they're pretty proud about. You get a combo through-hole punch and spring bar tool with the name on the company on it. And then you get the watch and a strap. So this is the Olmsted mat. It therefore comes with, they all come with a NATO, and they, in this case, because it's a mat, they have treated the hardware black, and then the little tongue is orange. So it's a nice little touch. And then the watch. So let's go ahead and zoom in and get into it. All right, let me unscrew this and give it a wind to get it moving here. So the Olmsted mat is based on their traditional regular line Olmsted, which is a field-ish design with some nice traditional Oak and Oscar touches. Oak and Oscar is known for their sandwich dials, and this is definitely the case here with a custom font. So you can see that it's a 38mm watch, so pretty much right in the sweet spot for field watches, modern field watches anyway. 316L stainless steel, as you might expect. Say 44.9, so we'll just say 45mm lug to lug. That is a pretty solid lug to lug. That kind of makes up for the slightly larger than I would necessarily prefer for field watch diameter, and keeps the overall dimensions pretty wearable. I've worn mine pretty regularly, or I wore it pretty regularly for the first couple months that I had it. As you saw there, it is a screw down crown that gives it 100 meters of water resist, which you can see on the back here. You can also see that I didn't double check the back was clean. So let's get that cleaned up real quick. There we go. So, and this is 43 out of 100. It's a 100 piece limited edition. The crown has the Oak and Oscar logo, and yeah, so it's a pretty simple watch as far as features. Obviously sapphire crystal, AR, undersided only. The case, the specific coating they used is Cerakote. He's kind of coy about putting that on the promotional material, but he did confirm it in some Instagram comments. So that is Cerakote. You can see it's done a pretty good job. There's a little bit of a chip if I get the angle just right. There you go, you can kind of see it right between 4 and 5. Cerakote's pretty durable stuff. I've used it on a variety of items. It generally works pretty well. So I don't think, you know, you get those really sharp edges like that at the top of the bezel where you would expect some minor chipping. Otherwise it should hold up very well and then slowly kind of rub into a patina. All right, you have to excuse the jump here. We had someone come into the driveway and my dog lost her mind, so One of the unique features of this 2892 movement was that it was modified in-house by Oak and Oscar's watchmaker to remove the phantom date position, since this is a no-date watch. So when you unscrew the movement, you have winding, and then you immediately jump to a setting position. And there's nothing in between. You don't, which it's nice, because at $1,500 suggested retail, that was, you know, you'd be pretty upset if you had a phantom date position in the watch. So you can see the AR does pretty well. You can, you know, even with my light globe above me, you can kind of still make out the time, which is pretty impressive considering it's only about 1.5 feet above the watch. So yeah, it's a really solid watch. Wears compactly. No real complaints about how it wears. The movement kept okay time, nothing like super exciting, but well within cost. I think it was running about -4, -5 a day. I mean, so maybe not well within cost, but you know, it's not cost certified. It's supposed to be regulated in-house, if my memory serves correctly, but you know, certainly nothing I'd be upset about, even though I prefer my watches to run fast. It is not a Rolex style movement where you can use positional variance to self-regulate the watch. My current EDC watch here, the Tudor Black Bay 58, has that perk where, since it's a Rolex movement, or you know, Rolex family house movement. Let's see if I can get this propped up here. There we go. It does a much better job at positional variance. So, you know, the watch by itself will run about -1 to -2 a day when I'm wearing it. And then I can just put it face up, dial up on my nightstand at night, and that'll speed it up a little bit, and that'll catch it back up to running about +1 a day. So just with some simple tuning, I can take care of any issues. But let's go ahead and bring the lights down and talk about one of my biggest pet peeves with this watch. So let's take the brightness down and see if we can get a little lumen. It's during the daytime, so it might not be the most exciting thing you've ever seen, but you should be able to at least get a feel for it. And yep, you can basically see my biggest complaint right there. So you can see the lume, and it does exist. It is daytime, so you know, it's not like it's perfect, but just as a comparison, you can pretty clearly see, you know, it's not great. It's pretty terrible, honestly. The hands are okay. Let's bring that back up a little bit, keep it dim. So the hands are okay. The dial though loses its it is never really that bright to begin with. It's BGW9. Let me just take it off real quick, off camera, and see if I can give it a quick charge to see if you can get a good sense of what it actually looks like. But it's like all other BGW9 watches that I've ever had. Its biggest flaw is that it requires significant artificial charging to be bright. Once it's charged artificially, it's bright. But I'm not often in a situation where I can afford to just charge a watch before I need to use it. Let me just shut the light off real quick and see. Yeah, see, even with the charge, it's pretty tough to see. Let me see if I can bring the ISO up and. Yeah, if I bring it up, you can just see the whole watch. So really, that's the big issue. Again, for the sake of comparison, I'll charge up the Tudor and see what we can get on the display. I'll turn the light back on low for a minute. But yeah, that's kind of my biggest issue, because as a field watch, I use it in the field. And so day-to-day life, in and out of rooms, in dark places, in and out of the car. And so I need the watch to just kind of charge on its own. I don't want to have to be carrying around a flashlight and hitting it every few hours just to top it off. I want it to just go and glow all night. And if I did charge it with an artificial source like a bright flashlight, I could generally see it all night, with a few, you know, small exceptions. But yeah, not at all with artificial. So let's see. yeah, you can see how much different that is. Again, this is a terrible example. I'm shooting during the day here. Ideally, I'd be shooting at night so you could get a better sense because there's some ambient light. But I'll go ahead and bring it back up. This is a good time to talk about size comparison here. So the Tudor Black Bay 58 is kind of a standard size, 39, 40 millimeters. And so, and with a 48 mil lug to lug. So it's a good way to take a look, since most people kind of have a visual of that kind of Rolex sub-esque size, and see what we're going with here. So you can see it's actually very similar visually because of the large dial of the Olmsted matte. So that's kind of why I prefer a 36 millimeter field watch, because I want a little bit smaller wrist presence. They are very similar thickness. I don't know if he specifically has that in specifications. Let me just glance real quick. Yeah, so 11 millimeters for the Olmsted, and I think 12 for the Tudor. So you can see very similar. You can also see that the Olmsted is holding up really well and not really showing any wear compared to the Tudor. Tudor has about 6 months of everyday wear now. So you can see, but really they wear very similarly. The Olmsted's a little shorter, but it visually feels larger. The Tudor is just a little bit thicker, but really they feel, I mean, pretty similar. But the Tudor has much more usable lume. So that's pretty much what I have to say about this watch. I'd give it, you know, if I had to give it a grade, for a field watch where the intended purpose is legibility. Daytime legibility is incredibly high, but nighttime legibility is really below what I'd expect for a field watch. At least without artificial charging. With artificial charging, you know, BGW9 is great, and I know that Chase went with BGW9 because he was going for a pure stark white with still good duration of lume. You know, C3 is the gold standard for lume intensity and duration, but it kind of looks greenish white in bright sunlight. C1 is what like Omega used for a long time. It's white and grows very brightly, but doesn't have good duration. So I get why, but I wish there would have been, you know, an option, or at least a run, maybe one dial color or something in the regular production that had C3 or even C1. Because honestly, if I'm gonna have bad, I would rather have C1, I think, in this case than BGW9, because like I said, I really need that self-recharge versus having to artificially charge it with a bright light source. That intensity of just gathering light from ambient and then going into a dark place. Looks like we lost focus here. Let me put it down. There we go. Sorry about that. So all in all, like I said, if I had to give it a grade, I'd probably give it like a 7.5 to 8.5 out of 10, depending on what you need out of it as far as luminescence. It's a great watch, very low key. The BGW9 sandwich dial looks great in the daytime. The Cerakote case, very innovative. There are not many watches that are dark colored like this that are actually Cerakoted. I think the durability will be nice. I think the patina will look beautiful because, like I said, aside from those little very high angled areas, which I think if he designed a regular production watch that was Cerakoted, I think I would suggest maybe making fewer abrupt sharp edges like that at the bezel, because that's where you're going to get chips. But aside from that, it'll generally wear nicely and kind of eventually get that worn gun bluing look, if you're familiar with what that looks like, which I think would look nice for a field watch. This leather strap, by the way, is Horween leather. You can see I wore it pretty regularly and wore it in pretty good, and it does wear nicely. It's a little stiff maybe for my preferences, but I prefer a shell cordovan strap, which keeps it flexible while ensuring high durability. This is more of a just standard Chrome Excel type leather, so you have to make it a little thicker to to make it as durable. It does give it a little bit harder break in, but once it's broken in, it's very comfortable. So that's about all I have to say. I hope everyone had a great day, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. All right, guys, just a quick follow-up clip. I went and got a brighter flashlight to try and eke out a little lume test here. Again, still kind of experimenting, but hopefully we can get something. I'm gonna kill the lights kind of abruptly here, so hang tight. So you can, I think this is probably a little bit better. It's still not perfect, but you can get a feel for just how different these two watches are. So this is BGW9, and this is the Tudor with whatever Tudor's using, some sort of C3. All right, lights coming back up. So yeah, that gives you an idea, a better idea. I just felt like I needed to add that on before I moved on. So that's it. Have a great day.